Good afternoon and welcome to our lesson today, where we shall continue with where we had left from. Last time we mentioned about the listening skills. We were able to define what listening skills is. We were also able to look at the importance of listening and the effects of poor listening. We're also able to identify the different stages that we follow when we are listening. Now, today, I want us to continue and talk about stress management. Now, when you hear about stress, this is something that is very common. This is something that as human beings, we go through. However, how we manage ourselves when we are going through that level in life is what determines how to manage or how to cope with different people in an organization. So it's very important for us to be able to understand or for us to be able to know what are some of the symptoms. How do you tell that you are stressed? Most of us will wake up, or maybe most of us will have a headache, and the next thing you're gonna say is that I think I'm very stressed. You know, that's very normal, but it is good for you to be able to identify what are some of the causes of this stress. Also, you should be able to look at ways of managing yourself when you have got this stress. Also, we shall be able to look at the symptoms. What is it? What happens to you when you are going through a stressful moment? So basically, we'll be able to look at our objectives for the day, which we shall be able to define what stress is. We shall also be able to look at the causes. What are some of the things that cause this stress? And this stress that we're talking about could be work-related or personal-related. We'll also look at the effects of stress. What happens when you are stressed? How do you manage yourself? Yeah. We'll also be able to look at ways. What are some of the ways? Because you know, stress is part of life. Therefore, you need to come up with ways of coping with stress. We'll also be able to look at the forms of positive stress and also be able to look at the value associated with stress management. So we'll start by defining stress as a set of techniques. Stress management is basically a way of trying to come up with programs that are able to help people to be able to deal effectively with stress in their lives. Yeah, some of these strategies are used by analyzing specific stressors. Stressors means what? What are some of these causes of stress? Also, we'll be able to look at the positive actions to minimize some of these effects. So stress management basically refers to mechanism that we come up so that we're able to manage our day-to-day stressful lives. Okay, so it basically refers to techniques and the psychotherapies which are aimed at controlling somebody's personal level of stress, especially chronic stress, usually for the purpose of improving that individual. Yeah, so these are just techniques or modalities that would come up with for us to be able to manage our stressful lives on a day-to-day. So basically, stress refers to the response to a stressor such as environmental condition or a stimulus. So stress is just a way under which our body function or behave to indicate that we are going through certain problems or certain challenges in our life. So therefore, what is or what are some of the causes of stress. But now this stress, it all depends with us. Some of us would say, oh, we get stressed when we don't do certain things, or we get stressed that is related to work. So all these causes of stress are determined by an individual. So we've got a situation and pressures that cause stress are what we are referring to as stressors. Some of those situations, some of those circumstances that would happen and therefore enable an individual to go through stress. When we think about stressors, we are thinking about negative things. So we think about it's only those bad things that happen to us. However, we also have got other positive stressors. Sometimes you could be very excited, sometimes you could be very overwhelmed, sometimes you're so happy, but you are still stressed. So we can't look at it in terms of just negative stressors. So what causes the stress depends on the part of your perception. What exactly is causing you to go through that? But basically, the common external causes of stress, one of it is the major life changes. Maybe you're going through something in life. Yeah, maybe you've just gotten, maybe let me give an example of ladies. Maybe you've given birth recently, and therefore you're trying to cope up. You're trying to look at things differently, or things are not happening as it was before. Yeah, we could also have relationship difficulties. Maybe somebody is going through a divorce, or maybe somebody is going through a heartbreak. Also, sometimes also the other cause would be too busy. You're just too busy. You don't get time to sit down. You don't get time to unwind. And also the other cause is finances. Sometimes we don't have enough money, and sometimes they say money is they say money pesa ni roho, so sometimes we could be having certain challenges, and sometimes you're not able to cope. You feel like when you don't have money, that is the end of life. So these are some of the causes of stress in our lives. However, we also have got causes of internal causes, common internal. What we defined before were external. Now, what we're going to talk about as a causes of stress are the internal cases. One of it is sometimes when you have negativity, as a person, you feel so bad about yourself, Also, when you also have got unrealistic expectation, we all make goals. Remember, we defined goals when you're starting on a life scale, and we say sometimes we set goals, and some of these goals are goals that we may not be able to achieve. So we set standards that are beyond our expectation. The other cause, another cause of stress is what we call the inability to accept. Sometimes you're not able, you're not very sure about what will happen in the future. So that's what we call the fear of the unknown. You're not very certain of what you might be able to get at the end of it. Therefore, positive stress is a process of exploring potential gain. So even despite all the fact, you also have to look at it in a positive manner, and that's what you're saying. When you have a positive stress, you're also looking at the potential, or you're also looking at it in terms of what you shall gain from it. And therefore, we come now to our question: what is it that causes? What are some of the symptoms and the signs of somebody who is stressed? Most of us would say when you are stressed, maybe you want to go sleep. Others, when they are stressed, they have an eating disorder. They keep eating all the time. but one of the main causes or some of the symptoms that are able to rule out that this person is actually stressed are divided into two categories. We've got what we call the cognitive symptoms and what we call the emotional symptoms. Now, talk about the cognitive. We are trying to look at how this person is behaving. Sometimes this person might have challenges of memory. They cannot remember incidents. They cannot recall certain things that recently happened. Also, they are unable to concentrate. Yes, they could be here, but perhaps their mind is so far. They also have got poor judgment, where they make mistakes when it comes to certain decision, and in most cases they are always seeing the negative. Also, when we talk about the emotional symptoms, we'll look at somebody who is very moody, somebody who doesn't want to talk, somebody who just wants to be there, left alone. Yeah, we'll also be able to look at somebody who is easily irritatable. That is something very small annoys that person. We'll also look at somebody who feels very overwhelmed, and also somebody who is very lonely and they tend to isolate themselves. They don't want issues with people, they just want to be by themselves. Then the physical symptoms, this person will have persistent headache. Yeah, sometimes they have diarrhea, they have constipation, they have chest pain. Yeah, and sometimes they may have frequent colds. Also, behavioral symptoms. Now, this is somebody who might tend to be eating either too much or eating very little. They either sleep for a long time or they actually don't sleep. Others are using alcohol. People now who get into drugs. And also another symptom is the nervousness. Yeah, somebody who is very nervous. So what are some of the things that influence stress tolerance levels? Okay, one of it is a support network. When you have people who are there to encourage you, even as you go through this particular session. Maybe you've got a very supportive team of friends or colleagues or even family members. Also, the other thing that you need to do is to have the sense of control. You need to be confident, yeah? Feel good about yourself. You should also change your attitude on ways and which you think. You should also be able to deal with your emotions. Don't let your emotion overflow. Yeah. Also, you need to have knowledge about stress. Yeah. You also need to have knowledge how long you've been going through that particular issue. Therefore, we should be able to say, yeah, at the end of the lesson, why is it important for us to understand what is stress? We've also been able to look at the different causes of stress. We've also been able to look at the effects, what happens when we are stressed. We've also been able to look at ways of coping with stress. And finally, we've been able to look at the different forms of positive stress. So I hope with this video, you've been able to understand and to be able for you to know that stress is very normal. However, how you manage yourself during this particular time also determines how you're able to cope with your day-to-day. Okay, so I'm hoping with those few remarks that you've been able to understand the note that I had shared with you previously. Otherwise, I wish you a good day. Thank you.